Manuel Neary, one of my teachers at Davis, was making the most fabulous plaster figures of nude women, and I thought, why does anybody ever bother to do this again? Because he did it perfectly. If I did it, I would like to do it like that. I wanted to make art about myself. I wanted to do personal, almost narrative art, but I wasn't interested in using my own body. Bob Arneson was one of my major teachers there, and Roy DeForest, Gloria's husband, he used dogs in these contemporary paintings as kind of allegorical, figurative elements. And when Roy would give you advice, he wouldn't give me advice. A lot of the other teachers were good at dispensing advice. And Roy, if you asked him what you should do, he would launch into a story about a Great Dane and an Airedale. Me being the Great Dane, my husband being the Airedale. And he would tell me this story, and it was like I was free to try it on or not. I could identify with it, or I could just, it was a dog story. And that's one thing I learned, and that's how I felt about the horses. You can look at them as just horses, or you can look at them as, a self-portrait of kinds. So initially all of my horses were mares. Long ago I got sick of self-portraits of myself, of just, and then you do have, even within your own self, a male and female side. And I had male horses at that time. Now I have mostly mares, but, so my work did evolve. People always think they're mares, but not necessarily. But anyway, at this time in the late 70s, they were mares, and I thought about, okay, I had a really creepy review in Art Forum in which the horses didn't have eyes or feet. And the first sentence in the Art Forum review, this was 1976, it was such a big deal, I was so excited, I was going to send it to my parents. It said, Deborah Butterfield's horses have no genitals. Have eyes or nostrils or hooves either. And they were mares, so you'd have to lift the tail up, to see, if it was a mare or not. So I just thought it was the dumbest thing. Of course I couldn't send it to my parents. So I thought about how defensive that made me and angry, and I decided, having horses around me, they can sleep standing up. They're a prey animal, and they're worried about being eaten. So they can lock their hind stifles and sleep with their nose just barely touching the ground. So if there was an alarm, they can bolt. But when a horse is really safe in its environment and feels very relaxed, they love to lay down and take a nap. So for me, to come into an art gallery and lay down naked and just sort of take a little nap was, for me, showing my strength to these predator wolf critics that were slinking around. And I was just saying, sorry I'm sleepy, don't bother me. And so that's how it began. Also, I had life drawing with Wayne Thiebaud, and I'm not a very good drawer. And I must say in that class I didn't really learn how to draw these beautiful line quality drawings, but I did learn how to look at things. He would make us stand there for 2 hours. The door was locked at 8 a.m. If you weren't there, you weren't allowed to enter until 10. And this was in hippie days, hippie time. None of the other teachers were like that. We were like shocked. He wore a suit with pink carnation every day, and oh God, it was so wonderful because it was so different than the rest of the school, and it really got our attention, I'll tell you. So you would have to make a grid on your paper with dots, and then you could only plot points on this grid of where the model was. Sometimes he would make you do a 2-minute sketch of the model, and then he would make you go back in and actually plot it, and then in the last 2 hours you were allowed to connect the dots. Well, the drawings were really interesting. There'd be this sketch of a naked lady, and then all of a sudden there'd be this mountain range that was really the model. And you realize that when someone's lying down, it's so mysterious and geological. It's just monumental. And the horses are the same way. When they're standing, it's like a symbol on a stop sign. These are easy to interpret. You go horse. But when you walk in on the back of this one, and the mud ones were even messier, it's like, is this a pile of sticks? God, I think I see a horse in that. You know, what is it? My first show of the mud and stick reclining horses, I drove myself from Bozeman, Montana, wrapped in plastic in a flatbed trailer, to Chicago. And I was getting gas in North Dakota, and the guy asked me if I was going to the dump. And I'm like, yes. I succeeded. I really succeeded. So for me, the lying down horses are the most poignant and powerful.